People who choose to be kind every day despite of not receiving the same kindness back. What motivates you? Because I know how it feels when you're down and your day/week/month/year just fucking sucks, and if there's a chance I can make just one person who feels like that have a better day and feel good for a bit, then it's worth it. *Edit. So I've never actually seen a full episode of Friends and had no idea I was close to the theme song. Took me a bit to figure out why so many people were saying I'll be there for you lol, but thanks for making me aware of that. This is exactly why I have a tray set out on the front porch with bottles of water, Gatorade, and various snacks like bags of peanuts, beef sticks, and a variety of candy for our delivery drivers. I know their job can be stressful and they don't always work under the best conditions, so I do what I can to make their day a little better. We receive a lot of deliveries, and every time I see one of them smiling after reading the note I left out there with the snacks, it makes my own day better as well. I have the cutest video clip from my front door cam of a FedEx driver running toward the front porch with the excitement of a child after he spotted a box of Sour Patch Kids. As he was running, he cried out, "Oh! Sour Patch Kids!" He put the package down on the table and said, "Oh my God! This is awesome! I love this! Thank you," before hopping off the porch while practically clicking his heels and running back to his truck with a spring in his step. That reaction made me feel happy for days. Edit, paid the wholesome tax and uploaded the clip to YouTube. I understand how you feel. I have ADHD and I know it affects me relationships with others, and I try to compensate by being really understanding and appreciative of others and go out of my way to help them. I know it's not the healthiest way to handle things, and I know I need to listen to myself when I say this, but it's okay to struggle with the things you struggle with, and you shouldn't feel bad about coming off as annoying to others. People don't often understand what it's like to struggle in the same way you do, and it's worth treating others the way you want to be treated and be fair to yourself too. Perhaps you're not annoying and other people are the ones being assholes, or maybe you're not socially inept, perhaps people aren't giving you the same thoughtfulness you give them. Validate yourself, because people who don't struggle the same way you do won't realize they aren't being kind to you even though they really aren't trying to make you feel bad. I was raised in a really poor family. My dad was basically an orphan at 9 years old. Didn't have a clue how to raise children or how to love people. He raised us to be independent because that's all he knew. I always thought other people should also be independent and figure out their own problems. By contrast, my husband grew up with an alcoholic mother who worked at a bar and slept with anything that showed interest. He had to figure out how to take care of himself at an early age, but he acknowledges there were people in his life who helped him along the way. He's never met a stranger and will help anyone who needs it. When we first started dating, I mentioned that I either had to ride the bus to get to work 15 minutes late or an hour early. He handed me his car keys. Told me I could drop him off at work and then I could use the car all day. It's through his example that I've learned to offer help when I see someone in need, to be of service when I can. I try to embody this mindset so much. Being a dwarf, I get a lot of shit from people, shouting on the street, pointing, people filming me and taking photos of me, asking me invasive questions, generally making rude statements about me or expressing weird assumptions. It gets tiring and sometimes downright upsetting, for sure, but I never want to let that feed into how I interact with people in general. As soon as I am a dick to someone preemptively, without cause, I have just ruined an opportunity to have a positive new connection in my life. People can and will often surprise you, and even people who may seem ignorant or rude at first can change dramatically if I don't just shut them down from the offset. There is a line, of course. If someone is a complete unapologetic ass, fuck them. I'm not against standing up for myself, and I have had to cut ties with people before, but in milder situations, people have the capacity to change, and it's kind of wasted potential to not encourage that, whether it is through empathy or kindness. I used to let all of this get to me. I would be so angry and miserable, every day. I hated everyone. But eventually, I realized that empathizing with people is a win for both parties, understanding where a person is coming from, not excusing it, but understanding it, made me less angry, and in turn allowed for them to not get defensive or aggressive like they would if they were just pegged as a monster. Eventually, empathy just became easier. It made me happier, and it took less of a toll on my mindset. I'm so glad you wrote this. May I ask your advice about how you would like parents to respond to their children when you overhear a child say something? My 6-year-old daughter pointed out a little person once. Naturally, I was horrified that he may have overheard. I told her everyone is born different, and it's not polite to point it out in public. I told her different doesn't just mean eyes, hair, and skin color. I kind of use my thumb as an example. I remind her that I was born with a thumb that doesn't bend, my dad too, and my cousin can't bend his thumbs or big toes. In private we've had more in-depth talks, but it's always a shock to a parent when your kid says something in public. You kind of freeze and don't know how to respond. Plus, my embarrassment obviously showed, which I'm sure makes it worse for the person being talked about. You remind me of myself. I'm still working on it, and I understand why people do the things they do, but instead of showing kindness, I tend to treat them neutrally and ignore them for the most part. Which makes the ones who receive constant praise and attention for being more charismatic, think that I am a shut-in asshole of some sort, or that I secretly think I'm above them. It's unreal how much passive aggressiveness I get daily, just for not saying anything and minding my own business. Like I personally insulted them, and now they feel the need to show themselves as being superior to me. Edit. I treat neutrally and ignore the people who I deem to be assholes to others who are less fortunate. Because I've been where they've been, and I just can't show kindness to someone who puts down others to feel better about themselves. This. Life is hard. People go through shit. Also, having less empathy is often genetic, neurological, mental health, and gut bacteria related. There should be consequences for hurtful behavior and actions, but people themselves are a fucking mess of complications. I don't need people to be kind to me, because I have a lot of beauty in my life. I want everyone else to enjoy the beauty in their lives, too, even with the struggles. I want them to thrive alongside the pain. I want them to be as happy and well as possible. I don't want anyone to be stuck in suffering because life is short, and the reasons you may be a dick are complex. Your life is happening right now. It's passing by. What beauty is passing by that you just don't see? Can I make your path a bit more beautiful with a little kindness? This. I actually just quit my job yesterday because I realized that my managers were being intentionally rude and hurtful towards me and the higher-ups didn't care. One of the days I was just having a hard day, and when my manager came down on me intentionally harder than was necessary, I had a major panic attack. Later that afternoon he admitted he wrote and reread the mean message but decided to hit send anyway because he knew I wouldn't like it. I just realized in that moment I couldn't be in a place that condoned that kind of behavior from employees. Said managers then begged me to stay after I put in my notice. Of course. Later that evening I went to the grocery store and saw the same meat counter lady who is always there. She's always so polite and friendly, so because I was having a bad day I asked her, "How are you always just so gracious and friendly? I have never seen you otherwise, and I love that I can always expect to see you here with a smile on." She instantly started to tear up and told me what I said meant so much because she was having an absolutely horrible day. I just thought again how much words can matter and felt even more justified leaving my job. You never know what a person is going through, and your attitude and words can make or break someone's day, so why not just be kind? My go-to response to people who are rude to me is, "You seem like you're having a bad day, I hope being rude to me made you feel better about yourself." Usually shuts people down pretty quickly. Some years ago I was working as a barista at a small coffee shop that only had one person there at a time. If the boredom didn't get to you, the isolation would a little. I was working a morning shift that day and I had gotten little sleep the night before, so it put me in a rather bad mood. Coffee can only substitute sleep so well. Now I had been serving customers their drinks that morning and I've always disliked the people that asked for really complicated elaborate things. A lady comes up asking for one such thing. And it was a situation where she wanted more of something that would result in less drink in her cup. According to my bosses, we were not supposed to humor those people and legit fill the cup near halfway as a result of the customer's request. This is actually kind of absurd, because anyone who works behind the counter knows there is enough product left over in the mixing cup to fill the guest's cup, but we are supposed to dump it. So I did as I was supposed to, being in the mood I was and knowing it's what my bosses would have wanted. I thought, nah, fuck this lady, and just filled her cup up halfway. When she received it and asked why it was half full, I told her that's what we're supposed to do. She responded pleasantly and thanked me for the drink. And handed over an origami elephant that she had been making while waiting for her drink. I think I had not felt so bad as I did in that moment in a long time. She was so nice to me when I had actually been rather mean-spirited towards her. I kept the origami elephant on my counter for the rest of the 2 years I worked there as a reminder to give my best to people. Even if it's not much, just remember to give that little bit extra. I have heard the saying before, you can choose to either be the light, or the mirror that reflects it. And I think that was one of those moments for me. This is a fantastic story and a powerful reminder of something I've been thinking about for a while. We may never realize the impact we have on others through our ordinary interactions with them. But that potential for impact exists, and we need to remember that. Years ago, a Mormon friend of mine found out that I was reading the Book of Mormon, as an agnostic. She brought it up and wanted to know what I thought of the first parts I had read. I hadn't even really gotten into it yet, but there was a part about God asking someone repeatedly to murder a passed-out drunk man over some family records. I told her I thought that was strange and that it didn't seem like how I would imagine a good God to act. She laughed and was like, yeah, that part's weird, and we went on to talk about other stuff unrelated to religion. I forgot the conversation because it was totally insignificant to me. A few years after that, she told me she was deconverting. I asked her about what that was like, and she said it all went back to that little one-off comment that I had made and then forgotten about. She said she kept thinking about how she couldn't square her own core beliefs with a God that would order someone's murder. I don't think I could have gotten her to think about that if I had come at her all well actually and with the obvious intent to demean her beliefs. I had no agenda in our conversation, and I think that showed. And I was honestly just sharing a part of myself and my own reactions with her and then moving on. I wasn't trying to persuade. But yet that little moment changed something important for her. I've never forgotten about that, and it's changed how I approach talking with people about politics, religion, and all those sensitive topics. And even the small stuff too. It hurts me to be unkind to others. I feel bad. It sucks up my attention. I ruminate over it. I worry about retaliation. I damage relationships. I lose an opportunity to transform a negative relationship into a positive relationship. I leave behind a person that will continue to do damage that will inevitably come back around to something I will have to deal with later. It's like asking myself, why don't I just throw my garbage on the floor? Why would I want to hurt myself? Why wouldn't I want to be proud that I improved the world around me? I don't see the benefit in creating more problems, but I do see the benefit in fixing problems. However, I think your question is how not to get stepped upon. Being kind is not being a doormat. Set boundaries. Be vocal about what you will tolerate. Then seek understanding what is going wrong. Actively listen. And try to address their actual problem with compassion. I have mild cerebral palsy and grew up wearing a leg brace. When I was young, adults always seemed to take a double take at me and had to ask what was wrong with me. Looking back on it, I don't think they meant any harm by it, but it crushed my self-esteem. I wasn't raised believing there was anything wrong with me. My family always treated me like everyone else, no special treatment for me. I loved that, and I always appreciated the people who just completely ignored my obvious physical problems. Or the people that pushed me believing I could do more when I was told I would do less because of my diagnosis. That kindness changed my life. That small act of people deciding to get to know me instead of assuming CP was my only defining character trait is something I will remember forever, and it will always outweigh the crappy comments. And now I just get to pay it forward, and it's a good feeling. What is it that Samwise Gamgee says from Lord of the Rings? There's some good in this world and it's worth fighting for. Beaming face with smiling eyes. Ideals, if I'm feeling pretentious. A mix of masochism, partly due to said received unkindness, partly due to holding myself to an impossible standard, and that I'll hate myself even more if I don't even try to be a better person, if I'm more honest. Also generally understanding with age that evil, for the sake of argument, meaning any behavior not kind, isn't that simple. Most evil is born of circumstances. Either those of the past, trauma of varying forms, or immediate circumstances. Whenever I'm being confronted by daily evil, even though my immediate emotional reaction is very much dismissive or counter-aggressive, I try to remember that I haven't walked in their shoes. Maybe they have a traumatic past, a bad situation recently, a really shitty day in particular, or someone pissed them off on the phone mere moments before our interaction. Regardless of the particulars, judging them to just be an asshole can rarely if ever be justified. Not without hypocrisy. Goodness knows I've been a dick thousands of times, and I hope I'm not rotten to the core myself. So, just be better, I tell myself. Often unpleasant, but at least I don't have many regrets from making things worse for people. It's simple. Do you like it when people are kind to you? If so, you should be kind to people. It's that simple. I'm not religious, but the do unto others as you would have them do unto you thing is a great way to live. I used to be angry all the time and always complaining about people being assholes and life being unfair until I started to look inward and see that I was getting what I was giving. From that day forward I decided to force myself to smile even when I wasn't happy. I decided I would be kind and genuinely care about other people. It really is crazy how much my life changed for the better. Better opportunities popped up out of nowhere that I was luckily able to recognize and grab by the balls. With that being said, my life's not perfect. I still have bad days, but being able to lay down and know that I did everything in my power that day to enrich the lives of others makes any bad day just a little bit better. People are also a lot nicer, too. You really do get what you give. It seems like people can recognize your eagerness to treat people kindly, and most of the time they mimic that behavior. If you're skeptical, give it a try. What do you have to lose? There are several reasons to be kind to others without expecting to receive it back. Some of it theory or personal belief, some of it just the way the world works. For one, I believe in love. Not romantic love, but just general love for my fellow human. And don't get me wrong, I have days where people make me want to just slap the ever-loving shit out of them. But on the other hand, I try to practice basic empathy. Things I often think to myself are that I don't know what path someone is walking. When someone is being an asshole or being not so nice, you don't know what led them to acting the way they are in that moment. It could be a lifetime of hurt, anger, resentment, etc. It could be that they lost a loved one recently and they're having issues that they're having trouble processing it. They could be scared or not do well with interacting with others, or they could just be a huge asshole. But because I don't know the path they've walked to get to where they are in that moment, I still try to give them the basic human kindness I would want to receive from others, not expect but want. And to circle back around to what I said, I believe in love. You create and grow love by showing others love and kindness. Sometimes it starts out as a seed that grows or a ray of light that melts the ice covering their heart. Or maybe it's an accelerant that helps it ignite. Either way, you get love when you give love. The only way we can ever make it through this world is by loving one another. 2. I believe in karma, or what goes around comes around, whatever you want to call it. I believe that you get what you give in this world. I don't know if there is an afterlife, and personally I don't care. I'm living in the here and now. I read this story the other day.